resistance talk you hear, you might be confused about who that is. But these are the people resisting on our side, right? So and it started in Massachusetts, and hence the name. So just give a big hand here for Arthur Schapper.
Thank you so much, Russ. I really appreciate it. As I was walking, I see some people that I have known for a long time. Valentina, it's really good to see you. Again, say hi to Luke for me.
I will.
And Sylvia, we've been activists for many years. I live in Torrance, California. I was born in Torrance, California. I'm up in Los Angeles County. We survived. We have a slightly better district attorney. Now, after 4 years of George Soros running things, you guys we look to you. I always write to my Huntington Beach friends. I'm so jealous. 7-0, you guys are just implementing incredible reforms. And even with the A and B failure, I agree with your sentiment. You've really put this in the front. Don't be discouraged by an initial loss. Our Mass Resistance, we're an international pro-family organization. We have been fighting the entire LGBT agenda for over 30 years. We are based in Massachusetts, as Russ mentioned, which is like the belly of the beast, where same-sex marriage was first imposed on the country was a straight Supreme Court decision, the Goodrich opinion, and then it flooded across onto all of us 12 years later. Go ahead to the next slide, please. Russ is going to help me with this. I appreciate it. So here's a little history. Brian Kammacher is the president of Mass Resistance from Minnesota initially. He now, of course, makes his home in Massachusetts there. We're based in Waltham. We were initially the Parents' Rights Coalition. This is a fight that's actually been going on for 30 plus years. In the early 1990s, you had schools in Massachusetts that were pushing pornography, anal sex, oral sex, homosexuality, transgenderism. All of this stuff was being pushed on kids 30 years ago. But nobody pays attention to New England. That's how they got away with it. We have chapters in many states. I'm the field director, so I'm responsible for chapters in other states and even other countries. I also work with a lovely lady named Karen Van Wyk. She is the organization director. We've worked with people in Hong Kong, Singapore, Canada. You'll see more about that shortly. Next slide. Again, we fight the agenda in all of its forms. We're not just focusing on transgenderism. You have to go after the entire alphabet. When you had marriage licenses saying that two men could marry, that's transgenderism. Because now sex doesn't matter. Two men, two women, it doesn't matter. Right away, it unleashed all the problems. We stand for truth. We focus on biology, statistics, sociology, history. We're not just arguing from religion or tradition. We're not opposed to those things, but you have to be standing for truth that is based on natural law, natural right. Many pro-family groups do not want to confront this agenda with the truth head on, but Mass Resistance, we do, and we win. Next, please. We don't focus on what we are for, but rather what we are against. We are opposing this agenda. Yes, we're out and proud, no pun intended, that we oppose all of this. I was talking with one gentleman earlier. I'm hoping we'll have time for questions, and I'm welcome for the pushback. But we have to start having these discussions. We're not just interested in opting kids out of corruption. We want all of it out. It should be an opt-in, and if it's opt-in, no parent would. Parents didn't ask for sex ed. They didn't ask for their kids to be turned into boys to girls and vice versa. We are intent on organizing parents to fight this war and not just compromise for half measures. Next, please. We don't have time to watch this 29-minute documentary. What gay marriage did to Massachusetts. The whole country thought that Samuel Alito was smoking something when he dissented in the Obergefell decision in 2015. No, he basically reported what we declared 2 years prior. This documentary was released for audiences in Australia, but for the whole English-speaking world, the whole world. It's been translated into Chinese. We document the incredible tyranny, repression, public health problems that ensued in Massachusetts alone as soon as same-sex marriage. And it was imposed. The voters didn't support it. They didn't ask for it. It was imposed by 4 judges on a 7-judge panel. Next, please. And that's the title. You can look it up. Now, going back a step, we have had, in Massachusetts, we've had statewide victories. That is the bluest of blue states. Hard to believe, but Massachusetts is more left-wing than California. They don't have any Republicans. Or if they've had a Republican governor who's actually more left-wing than Democrats. That's Massachusetts. That's how bad it is. But in 1996, we got the ball rolling with the state opt-out law. That's the best we could push for, but that was a huge achievement. Every political establishment figure wanted to stop this. Kids could not be taken out of sex ed classes if the parents objected. They could not be removed until mass resistance got this law passed. And it's still on the books to this day in Massachusetts. Next, please. In 2000, the stuff that you're seeing in the Huntington Beach Library, you had gay activists going to Massachusetts schools teaching all kinds of gross, disgusting, illicit sexual practices. Fisting, anal, oral, without getting into details. This was normative. One of the parents in our team recorded it. In Massachusetts, you have to ask permission to record anybody. We didn't care. We got the recording, we made it public in spite of numerous lawsuits, and it caused an outrage across the state. Parents were outraged to see what their kids were being subjected to in the schools. Next, please. Fast forwarding to the Obama administration, Kevin Jennings was supposed to be the education czar, but of course he had his deeper agenda, wanting to push LGBT everything on children. But it was mass resistance. We exposed this creep, and we forced him to resign. This is a top official in the Obama administration. So we've got some heads on our wall, not just elms. Next, please. I'm just giving you a snippet or a sampling of the things we've accomplished. We worked with people in Tennessee. There was the Franklin School District. There were gay activists that wanted to push the Gay Straight Alliance clubs. These clubs are groomer factories. This is all about taking advantage of at-risk youth who struggle with identity, who struggle with belonging, who have suffered abuse. These are serious issues. They deserve to be cared for. But you have unscrupulous, perverted adults who want to turn them LGBT. The school district wanted to find some way to put a stop to it. We worked with them despite massive outrage and LGBT groups targeting the school district, the members, the people in the audience. They were able to pass a strict policy to protect the kids from those gay clubs. Next. Now we can talk about California. This was a big effort. This is when I stepped in full time. I was a volunteer, now I'm a hired director with Mass Resistance. 2018, there was this noxious bill. That is State Assemblyman Evan Lowe, like the most LGBT-oriented leader in the legislature at the time. And he introduced a bill to ban reparative or restorative therapy. This is if individuals struggle with same-sex attraction or identity issues, they can seek a therapist to deal with the deeper trauma so that they can be at peace and undermine the attractions. They wanted to ban this therapy. This is a massive attack on the First Amendment. We rallied with parents and churches across the state. We went after the legislatures. I had hearings, I had meetings with the Speaker of the House, his staff, and in the state Senate as well. They had to move things aside so we could talk to them. Next slide, please. Oh, this is, I just went ahead of myself a little bit. These are some of the things that we did to stop it. I had meetings with his Evan Lowe's staff twice, with the Speaker of the House, his staff once as well. We targeted them. We were able to stop this bill in 2018. Go to the next slide, I want to show. These are some of the activists that I worked with. You might recognize some of them, Sylvia. They were also part of the fight when we were going after legal immigration. They really were connected with the mass resistance fight as well. We stopped the bill. Evan Lowe pulled it at the last minute. But we continued to go after Evan Lowe. In 2018, in 2019, in 2020, he never brought the bill again. Because there was a lot of support for it, especially from LGBT activists in Sacramento. Next slide. Another fight that Mass Resistance has had some success. Drag Queen Story Hour. Who in their right mind would have ever imagined perverted men dressed up as garish parodies of women, gyrating in front of children, and calling it a literacy exercise? They like to bill this as, we're giving back to the community. No, what you're doing is you're grooming, you're abusing, you want to normalize your perversion, you're crazy, and put it on the kids. We shut down a lot of this. In Georgia, for example, this was in a suburb of Georgia, red state. They had this in the Atlanta suburbs. We shut down that drag queen story hour program. Next one, please. This was international news. I love sharing this, even now it's 6 years. Houston, Texas. They had their drag queen story hour. 2 of the drag queens were sex offenders.
Wow.
And guess what? The library didn't do its due diligence. They didn't do any background checks. No, they did not, sir. That is incorrect. They did not. They admitted it. Next, please. These are the 2 right there. Tracy Shannon, she was our Texas director. She did the work that the library refused to do. The press didn't do. But she did it. Next, please. We don't have the time to go into this, but this was the press conference she did. It was lightly attended, but it got international attention. Tucker Carlson talked about us. Breitbart wrote about this. We had newspapers in other countries writing about this. It was egregious. And Houston shut down the drag program and it never came back. Next, please. We protested Drag Queen Story Hour here, Chula Vista, California, one of the bluest cities in the bluest states. And yet even there, 80% did not want drag queens reading to their kids. We had a massive protest. The city was forced to spend $80,000, huge amount of money. They never brought it back. Next. And we exposed, there's the previous mayor who had said that they had done a background check on that drag queen. No, they didn't, and she admitted it. We busted her on that. We also got the pride flag removed in Chula Vista. Next, please. Downey, California, we shut down. They wanted to use taxpayer dollars to pay for an LGBT picnic. City residents' money giving to this little group and paid for them to have a picnic. We got that shut down. Next. Wyoming.
Wow.
We're talking about libraries, right? Campbell County, Wyoming is the first library in the entire country that left the American Library Association. They said, we're out, we're not using your standards, we're not using your precepts, we're not using your guidance. Forget it. We helped get this ball rolling, Wyoming. And other states, Montana, South Carolina, they left the ALA. We got that ball rolling. The ALA, I believe they're the ones that gave the bad language for those confusing ballot measures, I think, right? Somebody said that to me? The ALA is the big culprit. You have an out lesbian Marxist who was in charge of the ALA. She's made it clear she wants to queer the libraries. And you gotta ask yourself that question. There's all this pornography that is suffused in all these books. Why is the ALA so desperate to push this? And they call it queering. And they'll say, well, gay and pornography, they're not together. But wait a minute, look at this lesbian, Marxist, director of the ALA. She's very clear about her intentions. Next. I mentioned that we work around the world. In Canada, this gentleman, Bill Wacott. They don't have a First Amendment in Canada. You say something neat about certain protected groups, you can be dragged before a human rights tribunal. And you get fined tens of thousands of dollars. He has racked up a few. He is facing jail time. Bill Wacott. His crime? Passing out gospel tracts at a pride parade in Toronto. He was even hit with a $180 million lawsuit for causing pain to homosexuals. Why? For passing out tracts, telling them, hey, you don't have to live this way, give your life to Christ. He's just spreading the gospel. But that's a crime now in Canada. He uses our materials to tell the truth about homosexuality and transgenderism. And I want everybody to see this. So he's the gay zombies. He had to infiltrate into the pride parade because they would not have given him, you have to request, you have to get a permit just to march in a parade in Canada. So he dressed up. Gay Zombie Cannabis Consumers Association, right? And right next to him, you see men totally naked. And they were walking around naked around children. Wasn't it like 10 years ago that was a crime? An adult exposing himself in front of kids? But it's legal if you call yourself a homosexual, but you can't pass out gospel tracts. That's Canada. Next. Kyrgyzstan, maybe you never heard of it. Central Asia. But it shows how pernicious this agenda is. They are targeting foreign countries. They were doing it with American money. We had activists here. This is a majority Muslim country. Yet even here, with their very strong traditional culture,
There was George Soros' efforts to push LGBT on the kids, to push all kinds of exposure onto the kids, the adults. We were able to give a lot of support and resources to our activists. They got national laws passed, pushing out the LGBT, refusing American money, because this was under the Biden administration, pushing all this crap. Next, Sri Lanka. This is over the last 2 years. They have an anti-sodomy statute. Now, I know we as Americans, we have kind of that live and let live mentality. We might have to have a discussion about this. But you get rid of the anti-sodomy laws. So if it's okay for two men to sleep together, two women to sleep together, what happens next? Then they want to get married. What happens next? Then they want to have kids. What happens next? They want to teach your kids about it. What happens next? You have to use their pronouns. Well, you'll see an image that details all of this. In Sri Lanka, the World Bank was trying to pressure them to repeal their anti-sodomy laws. They have seen what has happened in the West when sexual degeneracy becomes normal. They don't want that there. We were able to work with Sri Lankans to stop the repeal of the anti-sodomy statute. Next, Kenya. We're moving into Africa. We have a pastor who has gone all over the country. They are pushing all the crap that you are fighting to protect your children from. They're starting to push it on the kids in Kenya. And it's even worse because Kenyan children, you will look at the floors. They don't have the technology that we have. And yet you have NGOs. Okay, the country has such poverty. And yet the children, the parents rather, they have to pay for their children to receive an education, even at a public school. You know, it's free for our kids, right? They have to pay for it in Kenya. So what happens? Unscrupulous NGOs will say, we'll pay for your kids' schooling, but they have to go to a class on the weekend, and at that class they teach about all this sexual perversity under the guise of reproductive health and identity and tolerance. They're doing it to the kids in Kenya, and this pastor is putting a stop to it. Yes, this is in Kenya, so we're moving all over. Next, and here's some of the scenes. This is just so inspiring. We put this right at the top of one of our recent reports. Every student at the school, we have pastors here as well as the pastor there, Pastor Bernard. They're able to explain these very heavy subjects in a way that's appropriate. The kids can understand. The parents know what's going on. They don't keep secrets. And every single child says, we want to stop this. The children are rising up. Can you imagine little kids being activists? We don't want this crap. This is what we're getting in Kenya. It's very exciting. This is big. Next. Okay, so I always like to share this. This is a nice, another elk head on my wall, if you will. Somebody mentioned that MassResistance were featured in the Southern Poverty Law Center. So how many of you have ever heard of the Southern Poverty Law Center? I like to call them the hate group from Alabama. Yes. There you go. And they've got a picture of me in one article. They've gone after my friend Kenny Strawn. Brian Canneker himself has been targeted. And as my boss, Brian, likes to say, he sometimes calls them and says, you guys haven't been attacking us enough. Pick up the pace a little. Because as I said earlier, if you're not defamed by the Southern Poverty Law Center, you're not doing your job. And we're right there at the top. So they've gone after us. What we did, this was really awesome. Just to go through the slides really quick. This was in the local paper, Daily Breeze. This is in Torrance. They had mentioned the Southern Poverty Law Center. They even mentioned the crappy newspaper. How many of you remember the OC Weekly? And the word is remember because they're gone. Every Thanksgiving, I dance on their grave. I tell R. Scott Moxley, Happy Thanksgiving. You're fired! I love it. And he hates it. Oh, he hates it. And what was that guy, the cockroach? He now works at LA Times. Ask the Mexican, whatever his name is. Gustavo Arellano, he remembers me. I have a nice picture of him. I should have included that. It's a picture of him selling oranges on the freeway. I said, hey, now you can get a real job. So we'll see how long the LA Times lasts. So, next slide. I wrote to them and said, you cannot call us this. Dan Rosenberg, he's no longer there, but he was a principal journalist. I said, he brought up the Southern Poverty Law Center, and I say, well, you do know they're a hate group, right? And then I went through everything from they defame Jews, Muslims, Christians. They tried to shut down educational opportunities for African American students. And he said, oh, well, I didn't know that. And it's gone. The entire SoCal news group they don't reference the Southern Poverty Law Center anymore. So we fight back. We end the defamation. We've gotten the Southern Poverty, we got the SPLC references, we've removed them from local papers, national papers. The Washington Post doesn't reference them anymore. Yeah. So we fight back. Next. Okay, so that was the last one. Next one. So I put a lot into it, okay. I just went over everything. I have a lot of slides, so I don't want to hang up too much on everything. This is it. We provide evidence. I can give you that evidence, by the way, if they've targeted any of you, who knows. Is this true? Did you receive a phone call because I was coming here? Was there an attempt to try to shut this down?
Yep.
Yes.
Oh, wow. Oh, man. So I haven't lost my edge.
We know who they
Yeah.
are.
Great. This is really good. Okay. And there'll be some more I'll show you. Okay, next one, please. We're really hardcore. We've criticized Trump as well as Biden. Okay? We are not a Trump movement. We're not a Republican movement. We're not a Democrat movement. We've actually had registered Democrats who have helped us. I know it's shocking, but not all of them are crazy. Some of them, well, they probably will become Republicans like in 2 or 3 weeks. Who knows? But we've gone after the whole thing. And this is a conservative movement. This is a club. Let's have the discussion. Next, please. We talk about how the entire set of behaviors, homosexuality, transgenderism, all the rest, it violates the laws of nature. I'm not talking about religion, I'm not talking about tradition. That will never work. John McCain was put on the spot by Ellen DeGeneres in 2008, and she says, well, I should be able to marry whomever I want to. And then John McCain says, well, I think that marriage is for one man and one woman. Now, how many people do you think that's going to convince? 0. And look where we are today. That's not an argument. That's not an answer. You got to talk about the whys and wherefores. Next. Always going to the laws of nature and nature's God. Whatever your God is, there are certain laws that are governing the universe that you cannot violate. You start with that. Next. We have an entire book. I have an example of it here. I can't give you this one. We have had people all over the world purchasing our text. Why? Because they want to have ammunition. The conduct is inherently destructive. Homosexuals, their lifespan is cut by an average of 20%. There's a problem here. Why are we not hearing about this? Media suppression, academic corruption, and cancel culture, obviously. But we document all of it. Health problems, public health, private health, mental health issues, etc. We document all of this. Next, we talk about the causes. Some of you may have a gay friend, gay relative, who knows? I'm not saying that you have to hate that person. In fact, quite the contrary. When you tell the truth, that's a form of love. You can ask any homosexual, any transgender, if there's a safe enough environment, they're not playing to the camera. You will find one of these 5 issues. They suffered abuse. They suffered neglect. Confusion. Kids get confused. That porn in the library, it's about confusing kids. Let's not fool ourselves. Molestation, shame. I don't hate anybody. In fact, it would be hateful for me to be quiet. This is what we're dealing with, folks. It's time to have these discussions. Next. Born gay myth. This is a tough one. This tripped up a lot of people. Ryan Sorba, a big supporter of MassResistance, he worked for Project Veritas. James O'Keefe, great guy. In fact, James O'Keefe came to MassResistance looking for work initially, until he started his own movement. And go to the next slide and see if I talked about it. Just trying to, here we go. Ryan Sorba, working with Project Veritas, went into a San Diego gay bar. So he's somebody else, just like what James O'Keefe's people, they go in undercover, pretend to be somebody else. And he talks to the gay guys, they're drunk, in Vino Veritas, right? Almost every single homosexual talked about sexual abuse that they had suffered as kids, physical abuse, neglect. It was horrifying. And Sorba, sadly, when he was relating this, it was like every story was so similar, it got boring. Not that anybody's trauma should be treated in such a dismissed fashion. But that's how pervasive it is, folks. And this is a discussion we're not having. We're hearing about just don't do this to my kids. I get that. That's noble. But why is this happening? in the first place. Next. Here's two among many. They're not just former homosexuals right there. Because we hear this lie, especially at the pride parades, if there's arguments about pride resolutions, I was born this way, how dare you attack me for who I am, etc., right? When you have a guy wearing a dress and he says, I was born this way, we got a problem here, No, this doesn't make sense either. These are two right here. You got Chris Doyle, he's a reparative therapist now, he was a homosexual, was abused as a kid. Christopher Yuan, he's a minister. He was exposed to pornography at the age of 9. God bless every one of you for raising hell about the porn in the libraries. Absolutely. Don't let anyone shame you about that. It's very serious. Pornography has manifold health problems. Mr. Yuan can tell you. It led him into a total life of degradation, drug use. He was also molested at 16. And you know what? He rarely talks about that. And I understand why. The trauma is so great. It's easier for a man to come out as gay. This has been my understanding. It's easier for a man to come out as gay than to say, I was molested as a kid. That's just my experience. I'm not dishonoring the ladies in the house. I'm just saying that for women, it seems it's a little easier. Saying a little, not a lot. Sexual abuse is awful. I'm not diminishing that for male or female. But I'm just saying this is part of the reason I think you see this agenda so pervasive. Next. Just a few more. Dr. David Pickup right there. The changed movement. Every single individual used to live a gay lifestyle no longer does. It's not immutable. You're not born that way. So why are we treating it as a civil right? People are born black, they're born Hispanic, they're born Jewish. But gay, trans, no. These are people who live those lifestyles. Next. And of course, transgenderism. This is so obvious. This is getting a lot of attention, and that's a good start, and I respect that. It's so evidently crazy. A man putting on a dress and calling himself a woman, a man invading women's sports. It's an 80-20 issue. It's so evident. And this was the problem that we as pro-family activists will always struggle with. Well, how does my same-sex marriage hurt you? It has taken us about 10 years, but you can see it. But when it comes to a man in a woman's sports arena, it's obvious. He's not supposed to be there. How many women have already been hurt? You can see it with your 2 eyes. Cultural degradation, it's a little harder to see. But we're starting to see it now. Next. Here's the basics about science. These are the arguments we have to make. Obviously, we have to get to XX and XY. I'm not a fan of, I identify as, this is ridiculous. Whatever you could say about yourself, there are certain factors about you that are immutable, unchangeable. And I love, even Vivek Ramaswamy talked about this. They say you can't change your attraction, but you can change your sex. What is this? It's insanity. He's spot on. Next. This is some of the crap that's being pushed on our kids. We got this out of a school in North Carolina, but we've seen it in lots of places. They've even used this in Kenya. Our pastor in Kenya, who is helping the kids and the families fight this stuff, they're trying to pass this stuff in the NGO classes in Kenya. Next. And of course, false identities, destructive procedures. You've got Bruce Jenner. I'm not calling him Kate. Notice I said he. I will not call him a she. And in Orange County, I know you weren't there, but I was sick to my stomach. During the recall of 2021, you had Bruce Jenner in a dress, a candidate, going to the Orange County Republican Central Committee. And he gets a standing ovation. Why? Because he's a guy in a dress? I'm like, what is this? William Dannemeyer must be turning in his grave. Bob Dorn is still alive. Notice he doesn't live here anymore. That tells you something. Next. Okay, it's really hard to see this. I'm going to have to get a new image next time, but the physical, surgical procedures that have to take place for a man to pretend to be a woman, or a woman to pretend to be a man, are obscene. I am stunned that you don't see more doctors in jail for doing this. And not just to the kids, to the adults. To anybody. Thank you, somebody said that. What is this? It's obscene, it's evil. And pro-family activists, by and large, don't want to have this discussion. We want to talk about, don't do it to the kids. I'm not saying that's We don't want it done to the kids, don't get me wrong. But if you want to stop this agenda and take over, you got to go right to the root of it. You got to talk about the real physicalities of this. Go to the next slide, please. When a girl wants to be a boy, you're seeing the damage. We have to show people this. This is mutilation. I never talk about gender affirming care. It's sex mutilation. Don't minimize that. Top surgeries, and notice how they make it like a cartoon. What is this? Again, back to the libraries, back to the books, all trying to desensitize the kids to go along with this crap. It's just look at the pictures, look at the drawing. The girl, she doesn't have anything on top anymore. Now she's a boy. No, it's evil. It's destructive. It's mutilation. Next. What can I say? We go right to the truth of the matter. And this is something that's missing from the discussion. People like to say, I was born this way. Do you believe the world is flat too? Do you believe in unicorns that fart rainbows and belch classical music? We have to get to a place of mockery once again about this. 10 years ago, 20 years ago, the idea of having a gay-straight alliance club in a school, I mean, parents would have torches ready to burn the buildings down to protect their kids. But we've been jammed for so long with the language of tolerance and civil rights, a corruption of it, to normalize perversion. Next. And to the Republican Party, a reminder that this was a party that was founded on fighting the twin relics of barbarism. We have that record to end slavery, but this is less discussed. The Republican Party was also founded to end polygamy. The Democratic Party was okay with a man having multiple wives, treating them like slaves, basically. But again, it was a pro-family party. And Donald Trump's rhetoric may be pretty loose or liberal to some, but his reforms are impeccable. Yes. I mean, he's really moving a pro-family agenda. Not just a pro-life agenda, but a pro-family one. You know, no Pride Month this time. I didn't like it the last time. I didn't hang him from a tree. I'm glad him over Hillary, obviously. But you don't have Pride Month. You don't have Harvey Milk taking his name off of one of our ships. I mean, I didn't have time to put this in. Harvey Milk, the gay rights activist, was a pederast. He slept with kids. He had a 16-year-old boyfriend. We should not be celebrating somebody like that on our ships. And the Trump administration is taking his name off off the ship. I have to admit, I did not vote for that because I would have never even thought of doing that. They are really thinking out of the box and pushing back on this garbage. I love it. Okay, next. No to Jenner, thank you. I'll just leave it there, okay? I'm sick of this. We've got to stop normalizing this. Next. CPAC. We all know about CPAC. Hey, a lot of great people show up. A little story about mass resistance. We were initially allowed to have a table to talk about mass resistance, right? And CPAC canceled us because we're a hate group. This is the Conservative Political Action Committee. And they pulled the plug on us. They allowed the log cabin Republicans, they allowed the atheists, they allowed the pot smokers, but not us. What is this? But they'll allow the drag queens. I'm sorry, folks, but if you say you want to conserve, you're not conserving the culture when you have a man in a dress calling himself a conservative. That's a no. Next. And mass resistance, we've been involved in this fight too. How many of you ladies, yes ladies, I know the difference, are a member of a Republican Women Federated?
No more.
No.
No more. Women's
Not
group.
anymore.
Republican
You're ahead of
women's
me. Good job, ladies. Because this is a good reason why. This is the Escondido Republican Women Federated. This was in 2020. They elected a man to be the next president. A man in a dress. You got Darrell Issa right there swearing them in. There were some conservatives that I know, and I questioned them and said, you just sat there and said nothing? And one of the ladies said, well, it's not my place. Excuse me? Biology absolutely is your place. Now, a couple of ladies screamed about this. They came to mass resistance. And let's see what happened. Next. We got them out. We raised hell across the state.
We had women from some of the Republican federated groups. They began complaining at the convention. You're electing men for women's positions. We talked to women's federated groups in other states. They changed, this is how insane our culture has become, right? They have to change the bylaws. A woman being a biological female. This was common sense 10 years ago, right? Now they have to tighten everything up. In Texas, in Idaho, in Montana. We had some people ready to protest in Virginia, where the headquarters is. We got the guy out. And you ladies have sent a larger message. You took your toys and you left. Good for you. If they don't even know what a woman is, they don't even have a right to have an association, do they? Next. I'm happy to also report, boy, I can't tell you how much crap I would get from younger people, college age. Arthur, why do you care about the private lives? Don't you understand it's not a winning issue? You guys are just stressing out about stuff. This young guy, Cesar Hurtado, I love sharing this. He would always give me crap. He was a libertarian. But he said, whoa, it's pretty gross. Look what the libraries are doing, like what you all were fighting. 10 years ago, I was laughing at conservatives when they said gay marriage would lead to this. Holy crap, they were kind of right. And you can see our documentary, What Gay Marriage Did to Massachusetts. You can see our reporting all the way back from 1993. MassResistance was sounding the alarm on all of this. Next. I don't care what consenting to to in private. Isn't that what we get a lot when it comes to this issue? Mind your own business, live and let live. I get it. We want to be a society, we don't want to be Ayatollahs, we don't want to be North Korea, I get it. I care about what happens in public, why should I care about what happens in private? Next. But here's the problem. Private behavior has public consequences. A little earlier I said, we can see that men and women's sports is clearly unfair. It's evident. But redefining the family, normalizing sexual degeneracy, well, look where we are now, folks. Why are you having to fight to get pornography out of your libraries? Why are you having to fight to get obscene sex education lessons away from your kids? Why was Kim Davis put in a jail cell for her faith? Why is Bill Watcott looking at 2 years in prison for passing out gospel tracts? Why do we see an increase in venereal disease? Why do we see the mental health problems? Why do we see a generation of youth struggling with identity? Why do we see the increase in drug use? Why do we see the fentanyl deaths? This is a result of destroying the family, folks. It's not a private matter, not anymore. And this is finally getting attention. How many of you have seen those videos or read those reports where you have two gay men and they practically purchase a child? Surrogacy. Children are being treated as commodities. What is this? I'm sorry, folks, it's not a private matter anymore. And every one of you who got married, tell me, did you do it in a closet? No, you did it in front of people. When you said I do, you said I don't to the rest of the world, did you not? It's a public matter, folks. And it's time for us to have the courage to say, no, we have a right to say you can't normalize that. And by the way, look, I was just reading, there was Idle Pines off the coast of Long Island. So there was 60% of the city was homosexual. Hey, nobody cared, right? This is the 1960s, everybody's minding their own business. But now it's pushed in our faces. Now you're forced to accept it. True story, Hermosa Beach, California. A gay activist and I were going at it. I had this live and let live view at the time. And I said to him, okay, you have your marriage and just leave me alone. Okay. And his words were, no, you have to accept me. I will not accept tolerance. There's a word for that. Tyranny. Oh, it's not a private matter anymore, folks. Next. This is a great quote. Paul Johnson, British historian, received the Congressional Medal of Honor from George W. Bush. I wanted to put the whole thing. I want you to see this. He was a liberal. He fought to decriminalize homosexuality in the United Kingdom. He said it's not right to punish people for their inclinations if they're born that way, etc. This was 30 years after the fact. Thus, we began by attempting to write what was felt an ancient injustice. And we ended up with a monster in our midst. Powerful and clamoring, flexing its muscles, threatening, vengeful and vindictive towards anyone who challenges its outrageous claims. We're talking about the homosexuality movement. We're talking about the transgenderism movement here. And bent on making fundamental, and to most of us horrifying, like the porn in your libraries, horrifying, right? Changes to civilized patterns of sexual behavior. Well, we were trying to right a wrong, and now they've made it worse. Folks, we're seeing the degradation now. You can't ignore it. It's time to have that discussion. Next. And I always extend the offer. Everywhere I go, we're always interested in forming new chapters. We have a newsletter, it's free. We had one teacher in Westminster asking for our help because some books she was forced to remove, and she's trying to keep the porn out. This is in Westminster, one of the elementary schools. The Clarvita Wellness Center, we were trying to help some people to shut down the Pride event there. But if you want our newsletters, you want to get involved, please sign up. We don't sell your information. We've had donors, we've had campaign candidates come to us and say, we're not giving our information out to people. We're not farming like that. We look to support, we look to train, we look to organize. Feel free to sign up. I love what I'm seeing, going after the books, just stepping out of your comfort zone to do that. Excellent. I love what Mayor Vandermark and the team, they wanted to defy, there's something 1955, the schools keeping secrets. This is the kind of move we want to see more of. I want to see more of that. In fact, what our big dream, we want to create sanctuary school district. California doesn't abide by immigration law? Fine. Then maybe the school districts can say, well, we're not going to teach your crappy sex ed. Yep. Make me. The question is, we need a mass resistance, getting a bunch of school districts to move. They can target one, but if you have 20 saying, we're not teaching this crap, we dare you, Gavin, go ahead and cut our funding. Try. Temecula shouldn't be doing it on its own. It shouldn't be Chino Valley on its own. This is the fight. We need to be thinking big like this. Next. And now, I'll appreciate, how am I doing for time? I'm sorry if I, okay, thank you. That's great, okay. Appreciate it. Let me show you what we did in Downey, California. Obscene sex ed. We were able to organize to go after, they had explicit LGBT-oriented sex ed. Next. We had meetings with the parents. Next. We created a flyer targeting the school board members. There was only one who was on our side who had voted against the Teen Talk sex ed curriculum. Next. And we had victory. We got rid of that sex ed curriculum in Downey. They had the hard curriculum. So that was big. But it was about organizing the parents. We went door to door. We were telling voters, and we had massive support. Downey is 2-to-1 Democratic, folks. But I think we've seen a lot of Democrat voters are waking up. It was so crazy. I've been to Downey a couple of times. I've knocked on doors, and you'll have voters saying, is that candidate a Republican? Because I ain't voting for a Democrat this time. I mean, this is Downey. Okay, I'm not talking about Kern County here. There's a real shift going on. Next. And now we can talk about Norwalk, La Mirada. This was fantastic. So we had parents in Downey who helped us out, and they said, come to our school district too. Norwalk, La Mirada, they had a well-being center at one of the high schools. And this center would direct kids to get abortions or sex change procedures without telling the parents, of course. And, well, we raised hell for it. Go ahead, next. And, of course, they called us a hate group. The big picture of me right there. This is the local press, folks. This is not LA Times. This is not San Francisco Chronicle. It is a very sad commentary on the press that even the local newspapers, which are supposed to be an alternative, have become just as corporate and just as corrupt, and they are total lapdogs for the local governments. It is disturbing how corrupt they are. Next. We stood up to the school board when they tried to shut down our public comment. Next. We had widespread activism, and we succeeded in getting the center shut down at Norwalk, La Mirada School District. The school board was against us, the local press was against us. The school district even pushed a fake survey. Without telling the parents what it's really about, they asked a basic question. Do you support the well-being center at the high school? Without, of course, giving the details, like they're directing kids to get abortions or to mutilate their bodies. And so, well, look, 96% of the parents support this. So we had everything against us, and we still shut it down.
Next. And here's a little bit about it. We fought for a year. We didn't back down. We reached out to the local churches. Some of the Catholic priests, they took some time out of their homilies and said, folks, you need to speak out. The pastors, they did speak out. Some of them did, from the pulpit, to fight this. We stayed in, even though, and this is something that's big about mass resistance. You know, a lot of influencers, you see them on media, you know, there will be some creepy teacher at this high school, and it gets publicity for a week. And people are angry, and they scream about it, and then they chase the next shiny thing. But with mass resistance, we stick to it. We're not chasing the headlines, we're chasing victory. And sometimes that takes a while, and sometimes it's not pretty or fun, it doesn't get headlines. But we're fighting to destroy this agenda. Next. Okay, so again, I'm ahead of myself, I'm glad. Next. And this is another, okay, so we got two current projects that Mass Resistance is working on. Really excited about this. First, go ahead, next. Resolution against Obergefell. The Dobbs decision is a great day in our history. I think lots of us never thought we'd see that abortion decision, Roe v. Wade, overturned, and we saw it. After 50 years of the Supreme Court normalizing abortion, and that decision was overturned. Well, Mass Resistance said, why stop there? The Supreme Court should overturn Obergefell as well. That is the same-sex marriage decision. Everything that the dissenting justices warned about has happened. And they said, we want to go to the next step. We don't see anybody else doing this. So, Mass Resistance, we put together our own resolution, and we have shopped it around to legislatures around the country. And we found some legislators, and they have run our resolution. Next. The same-sex marriage thing, this is what I was talking about a little earlier. The slippery slope is real, folks. Yep. Yeah, it started with, let us get married, and now it's turned into, let us mess with your kids. I'm sorry, folks, it's connected. It's not two separate issues. It's all part of the same corrupt rainbow, folks. Next. Major newspapers have been writing about us. Washington Post, New York Times, Newsweek. Far-right conservative group wants to overturn same-sex marriage. Yeah. We're going for broke. And I commend the legislators who've taken this fight on. We have said we're not going to sit and wait. It is time for us to take back the rainbow. It is time for us to take back the culture. This is not a fun topic. A lot of Republicans don't want to touch this. Oh my God, you know, the abortion thing. Look what happened in Ohio. Right now in Ohio, okay, so an amendment passed to the Constitution in Ohio that normalized abortion. As we speak, the legislature is trying to overturn it. You don't stop at one loss. The libraries, you're not going to stop just because one ballot failed. Protecting your kids is more important than one failure. We can win this fight, folks. This whole LGBT movement is a house of cards. Ronald Reagan said that the Berlin Wall should disappear. He said that in 1969. Everybody laughed at him. The Berlin Wall, that'll never fall. The Soviet Union, it is here to stay. And what happened in 1989? Ronald Reagan was chipping out a piece of that wall. And I say the same thing for this whole LGBT cult. This is a house of cards that will collapse if you just blow. But we have to stop being intimidated. Next. We got the resolution introduced, and these are some of the states just this year. From Idaho, Louisiana, we got a guy there. They'll take it up next year. It was too late this year. Next. Our resolution, first time ever in Idaho. Someone's moving to Idaho. Someone mentioned Idaho. Or the staffer from Huntington, right? There it is. Idaho House of Representatives, they passed a resolution. They got it done. The first. We're not done yet. It didn't get through the state Senate. We're working on it for next year. Next. North Dakota as well. We're starting the discussion. We're getting this thing moving. It is time to reverse this, and it's time to, I love to say, make male and female great again, make marriage great again, make mom and dad great again. Let's fight for everything. Next. We're also pushing, we want a revolution in all the schools. We are not interested in just having an opt-out policy. Next, go to the next one. We want to have all the crap removed. No gay-straight alliances, none of this crap. The schools need to get back to being good, wholesome, focused on real education. Winston Churchill could write poetry in ancient Greek. And we have kids now who can't even write a sentence in English.
Yep.
Why are we teaching them about the ABCs of LGBT? This has got to go. All of it needs to go. No Harvey Mull, none of that. These are some of the resources we've used to organize. Next. We want you to see that this is a fight of good against evil. You're part of a grand fight. We focus on giving people a job, getting them to work, inspiring citizens to be active for the cause for the long term, and to build an army. Next. Sam Adams is our mascot. A lot of you know this quote. It does not take a majority to prevail, but rather an irate, tireless minority, keen on setting brush fires of freedom in the minds of men. That is what motivates us. Sam Adams, we have his statue on our website. He is our standard bearer, if you will, the first community organizer. Next. And what can I say? We're still building even here in California. So please sign up. I want to help out more, whether it's Huntington Beach, whether it's Westminster, whether it's Torrance. Torrance, we were able to stop a pride resolution. Torrance has gotten a little more liberal, and I'm still in LA County, it's still very liberal, but we stopped the pride resolution this year. Yes. We don't have the pride flags, even in Torrance, California. Okay, we're not Huntington Beach, we're not nearly there yet. Next. Here's my contact info, I make it public, I get nasty phone calls, I don't care. It means I'm doing the right thing. Next. And we're done, okay, I appreciate it. I could go on for hours and hours. Thank you so much for having me. Thanks for taking the risk and having me.
Okay, we got